is Carol Pearson. Carol, welcome.
Thank you.
And Carol's story is different and even more difficult. A woman who is happily married, correct? You're going to have to help me with this. And then one day, this is also a nightmare in its own way, you find out your husband's gay?
I knew before that had been the situation, but as far as we were both concerned, that was all over. But it was not all over, and 8 years into the marriage and 3 children, I learned that it was still a problem.
That your husband, even you had thought he had stopped being gay.
Yes.
You had 3 children, you'd been married 8 years, but he was having gay relations.
This is true.
And what happened?
And then, to make a very long story short, 12 years after the marriage and several years of agonizing over what to do, how to save what was really a precious thing to both of us, we made the decision, and we had 4 children by this time, we made the decision to end the marriage and to maintain a good friendship, which we were fortunately able to do.
Did he go to live with somebody else?
No, he was always looking for his lifelong true relationship with a man. That never happened for him. He essentially lived alone. We, by this time, were living in Northern California, and he moved into an apartment in San Francisco, and we continued to spend a great deal of time together.
And then tragedy struck even more. What happened?
Right. After 7 years of being apart, Gerald was diagnosed with AIDS. He had been ill for at least a year prior to that time, but we were unwilling, he was especially unwilling to accept the probability that that's what it might be. We knew about AIDS, we were fearful of it. And as the diagnosis was firmly made, it was of course devastating to all of us. It seemed impossible to me personally to accept the fact that Gerald's life was not going to go on for a very long time. I had always seen something very marvelous, something very almost supernatural in him, and I believed along with him that somehow, some miracle would happen, that he would be able to survive.
But you're not living with him now. Your husband is gay and he's off there. You took him back into your home?
I did. When the diagnosis was made and when I knew that he would not be able to manage on his own for I did not know how long, it seemed to me the right and the reasonable thing to do to ask him, which I did, if he would like to come and stay with us. I loved Gerald very much. I loved him always as a friend after I had stopped loving him as a wife. And he loved me, too, and the children adored him. And I wanted to do everything I could for him, as these 2 wonderful women have expressed here. It was important to me to do everything that I could for him. And so, not being really physically fearful of the disease, accepting the doctor's best judgment that this is a difficult disease to catch, I was unwilling to cut Gerald off from us, and I wanted to do everything I could for him.
How bad was it to take care of him?
Well, I didn't have what these women had in terms of this long-term kind of care. At the end of Gerald's life, there was really only 1 week that I personally had the full burden of his physical care. There were intermittent times before that. And that last week, I feel fortunately now, he went down quite rapidly. And not having good training in any of this, I sent for Gerald's mother, who had been a trained nurse's aide. And so she and I together took care of him. I did not know how long that would be. I thought it might go on for several months, but it did not.
And you crawled into bed with him as he was dying. Why?
To comfort him, to love him, to let him know that he was not alone. Nobody ought to die alone, and nobody ought to die unloved. And in this country today, there are going to be, and there are plenty of people, especially men, who have sometimes been abandoned by their families, left by their friends, even who are dying alone. And we can all do better than that, and we've got to.
Take a break. We'll be right back.